together for about 3 years now, with a 14-month-old daughter. We had the child pretty early on in the relationship. Our first pregnancy was an accident, but we decided we were both willing to go through with it. However, it ended in a miscarriage. We then decided to let it happen, and we ended up with the coolest little girl ever, and at the time, I was over the moon. Our relationship was good. We had bumps in the road like anyone, and I was happy. But since she got pregnant, I feel like the dynamic has changed significantly. When our family is at its best, I'm happy as can be, but at its worst, I fantasize about leaving. She can be pretty self-involved at times and will get really wrapped up in narratives about how stressed she is, that there are 7 different health problems she's having, that she doesn't have the time to even take a shower, etc. She has full-blown meltdowns about things like this about once a week, and it can be really hard to handle, at times even scary. I try to talk through it with her and explain that, for example, she could have taken a shower in the time it took to freak out about it, but she doesn't want to hear any of that. I find it really irrational and difficult to deal with. We both have the same hours in a day, and I kind of need my partner to be able to cope with basic life issues a little better. We have a pretty comfortable life. There's no reason to stress about it so much. I was recently away for 2 weeks, 1 week for work and 1 for vacation, and she made the first week hell for me. Anytime I was away from my phone, she was blowing it up, asking who I was with, whether there were cute girls around, etc. She gave me a hard time for attending a bar with some coworkers after dinner. She really showed her insecurity, which was a turnoff, but also at least let me know she cared. After the first week, she kind of got her bearings, and we actually got along great for the second week. She sent me intimate pictures, which literally never happens, and we actually exchanged some sexy texts, which was awesome, and again, never happens. Our intimacy is usually her lying on her back on the bed and demanding I just do the same old thing again and again to satisfy her. I would love to experiment more, but the second I try to shift things from the norm, she shuts down. For example, if I accidentally graze her hair, it's "don't touch my hair." And the mood is ended the life of instantly. Our intimacy is not bad, but it definitely does not feel like we connect very much. It feels formulaic and robotic. I crave intimacy, connection, and exploration with her. Anyway, sorry, I digress. To that end, I feel like she gets so wrapped up in her own issues that I don't really get much attention from her. It's not just sex. I'm referring to intimacy in all forms. Rarely anymore do we just cuddle, or talk about our hopes and dreams, or really do anything that isn't discussing what needs to be done around the house or for the child. I need a connection from my partner. I need to feel like we're on the same page, like we're supporting each other and are interested in how we're doing. She has called me her best friend before, which blew my mind. We're not best friends. Right now, it feels like we're sharing the same house, but we're living parallel lives, and sometimes it even feels like we're competing to see who can do life better. I want someone I can engage in casual conversation with, talk about current affairs, goals and dreams, movies, literally anything. I don't feel like she's capable of that with me, or she's just not interested. This makes me jealous when she goes out with her friends, and I know she's acting differently with them. Do I just bore her? One pressure point for me was my last birthday. She didn't make any effort to do anything for it at all. In fact, she has never really made an effort on any of my birthdays. She wished me happy birthday, and we went for coffee, a typical Saturday, and then she ended up going out drinking with her friends while I stayed home with the baby. As she was heading out the door, she asked if I was okay with it, and I said yes, because I would rather she be out if that's what she wants to do, than be home with me and resentful because she wishes she was out. Like, if she doesn't have it in her plans to spend time with me on my birthday, I'm not really interested. That might have been a dumb move because I got really bummed after she left, and I mentioned it to her through text, and she then blamed me for making her feel guilty and ruining her time. Fair enough, I guess. She also called me materialistic for being upset that she did nothing for my birthday. This was back in January, and I still have resentment about it. We have done a couple of couples therapy sessions, which were all right, but I didn't feel like we were really getting anywhere. She puts on this very smiley public persona, and I feel like she just kind of tells the therapist what she wants to hear. They are expensive sessions too, so we haven't been back. I do wonder if I'm expecting too much of her or if I'm being too needy. I work from home, and there are weeks when she is literally the only person I see. My therapist has mentioned that I need to prioritize social interaction more so that I'm not depending on her for 100% of my needs, which I have tried to do, but I've also recently quit drinking, which severely limits what I'm interested in doing with my friends for the time being. That said, I kind of feel like my expectations are basic relationship needs, and I'm not asking too much. I just want to be with someone who understands me, or rather, who wants to understand me. Right now, I feel very misunderstood and alone. I try to express to her how I'm feeling, which I feel is a basic tenet of any reasonable relationship, but it usually just gets met with her raising her voice at me, yelling, really, about how much worse she has it, how she's feeling this way, and she has all these problems, as if to say, how dare I express my concerns to her when she has it so rough? If I say I feel like she doesn't understand me, she says that I don't understand her. If I say I feel alone, she says that she feels alone. The conversation then just becomes her telling me how she feels and me trying to console her. To be fair, she apologized for this the last time it happened, which was significant, but she didn't then redirect the discussion back to me, so it didn't really mean that much in the end. But at least she recognized she did it. I've really tried to examine if my thoughts about this are unfair or unhealthy, or if I'm being too needy. I've tried to stifle my emotions since she's the one that had the baby and had to recover from that, but in all fairness, it's been 14 months, and I don't think these patterns are 100% related to having a child. I've found myself fantasizing about being with someone else, or more so than that, just being alone and co-parenting. She was out of town last weekend, and the house was so quiet. It was just me and my daughter, and it was absolutely lovely. When we're good, we're really good, but I'm not really feeling like it's 80% good and 20% bad anymore. It's more like 50-50, sometimes even less. I'm scared to end this because my barometer is all messed up from the lifestyle shift of having the baby, and I really want to be the person that has a perfect family and can show my daughter what that's like. But I'm not sure if I can continue on in this situation much longer. It's really affecting me emotionally. I'm not suicidal, but on really bad days, I have mused about how nice it would be to just flick the switch off. What should I do? Should I end it and turn our lives upside down? Should I tough it out and continue therapy? Am I being an unreasonable person? Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I'm just looking for things to be upset about. Maybe I'm the self-involved one. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I honestly don't think 3 years is that long of a time. You guys already had a child about 1.5 years in. If not, maybe this relationship would have just fizzled out. Like the idea of a baby, and then the baby, was what powered the relationship beyond its natural life. From reading your post, it honestly doesn't even sound like you like her. You don't say anything positive, or anything about her personality that you enjoy. However, I do think your therapist is right that you need more social interactions with others. Like, do you go weeks without seeing her? Yeah, you need to see other friends. And yeah, when she went out on your birthday, you should have told her before she went out. Like, when she asked if you were okay with it, that you weren't. Waiting until she was gone, then texting is just weird and juvenile. I agree she should have made plans with you on your birthday, but if you literally told her you were okay with her going out, but weren't, some of that is on you. It's funny that she spent your whole work week away blowing up your phone and being needy and jealous, though. Anyway, it doesn't sound good at all. Comment 2. She has been back to work for about 3 months now. The child is in daycare Monday through Friday. Mom drops her off on the way to work, and we alternate picking her up in the afternoon. I am not perfect, but I am definitely a reliable partner. I have no idea if she would agree, but I am not the type of person who lets chores fall by the wayside. Most of the household chores end up falling to me. I do the laundry, clean, and handle random repairs. It feels very weighted towards me, though this is also because I work from home, so I get a head start. But I am also a bit of a neat freak, whereas she is very much not. She is good with cooking and cleaning the kitchen, and will get random spurts of cleaning energy every couple of months. I get that we may still be in the throes of recovering from childbirth, but I feel like she is always overwhelmed. There's rarely a time when I can talk to her calmly, because anytime I bring it up, she is already overwhelmed. I think getting back into therapy is probably what needs to happen. Now for the update. 2 days have passed since my last update. I got home late yesterday from my 2-week work trip, and honestly, I was feeling a bit uneasy. I got off the bus, and there was my partner waiting for me with our daughter in her arms, looking a little more happy than I expected. But she was acting different. I couldn't really put my finger on it. I came in, gave them both a hug, and got settled. After dinner, I was like, okay, we need to have a talk. And so we did. She started talking about how overwhelmed and stressed she felt about being a parent. I get that. She's been doing this solo basically since our daughter was born, and I was working from home, so I totally understood her struggles. I tried to comfort her, but she seemed far away. It was like we were in the same room, but I was talking to someone who wasn't really there. She said she felt isolated and basically a single mom. And I get that she feels that way, but I work from home and I'm always around. I try to help with whatever she needs, but it just feels like nothing is ever enough. It's always a little more, a little more. It doesn't matter how many times I try to help out. She always wants more support from me, and I'm just not capable of giving it. We decided to have a family dinner with my parents to lighten the mood, and she agreed, but she was a little distracted while we were planning it. Dinner with my parents went well, though. My dad told some embarrassing stories about me when I was a kid, and everyone was laughing. But then my mom asked us about our plans for the future, hinting that we should get married. I don't know why, but my partner got super uncomfortable and changed the subject right away, and I could see her acting weird. After dinner, I found her crying in the bathroom, and I knocked on the door, asking if she was all right. She opened the door, and her eyes were red and puffy. I asked her what was wrong. She was like, "I just feel so much pressure from your family. I'm tired of them asking me when we're getting married." I tried to reassure her that my parents were just being nosy, but then the conversation got heated. She was like, "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." And I was like, "I get that you feel overwhelmed, but I'm also struggling and I'm trying to support you." We ended up arguing about our individual responsibilities, and I just left the room because I didn't want to fight. The next day she left for a weekend trip to visit her sister, so I spent the weekend taking care of our daughter alone. Honestly, it was kind of nice. She's a great kid, and I realized how much I enjoy being a parent. While I was cleaning, I found this old letter from her late father. He wrote it when she was 10, and it mentioned his dreams for her future and family. It was just a nice, nostalgic letter, and it kind of got me thinking. She came back home on Sunday night, and we had a tense reunion. I tried to talk to her about the letter, but she seemed uninterested. Later that week, we had a birthday party for my niece, and she was acting all happy and connected with my family, which honestly made me feel bad. So that evening, I brought up my feelings about the party, and she was like, "You're making everything about you." I realized I was probably coming off too strong, so I decided to step back and give her some space. I've been spending a lot of time with our daughter, and like I said, I really enjoy being a parent. She's super cute and funny, and I love when she laughs. A week later, I got a call from my mom. She said my partner had called her asking for advice. My mom said she seemed unhappy and confused about our future. My mom was like, "I'm worried about you two." And my partner asked me if I knew anything about her future. This news honestly made me rethink my approach. We agreed to meet for coffee to talk about the letter and our future, and the conversation was honest, with both of us sharing our perspectives. To answer a few questions, yes, we are still together. We decided to keep working on our relationship. I realized I was focusing too much on my own feelings and not considering hers. We discussed her feeling like a single parent and I agreed to take on more responsibilities. Am I the idiot for wanting to leave my boyfriend after he turned into a party animal? For context, my boyfriend, 20 years old, and I, 19 years old, have been together for about 4 years. We have had many ups and downs. He has made countless mistakes, which I honestly should have left him for, but for some reason, I just couldn't stay away. He is my first boyfriend, so I think that plays a part in me being so attached. Within the past year, we've had a very healthy relationship compared to how it was back then. He's been very good to me, showering me with love and being gentle about my feelings. He basically changed completely for me in the best way. But myself, on the other hand, I think I have changed in the worst way. Since he has done some pretty messed up things to me in the past, it has altered me emotionally and physically. He would get mad when I would wear makeup when I wasn't with him. That's even though I used to wear makeup every day, even before I was with him. I lost one of my closest friends because of him, and I can't even hang out with one of my other friends because she's a bad influence. And so many other things, like keeping contact with an ex, showing interest in other girls, and then gaslighting me like crazy about it. There's so much more, but I'd rather not get into it. With that, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I don't feel happy. I'm not the same person that I was when we first met. I'm constantly overthinking. I feel far from confident in my looks. He damaged me really badly, and I never deserved any of it. It just hurts me because I wish the relationship had been good from the start. I didn't deserve to go through all of that mental trauma. Lately, for about the past 2 months, I've been debating whether or not I should leave him. Part of me doesn't want to, because we've already been together so long. We've talked about a future, have a dog together that lives with me, and we have grown a connection to each other's families. But the other half of me just wants to let go, to find myself again, to heal and learn to love myself again, as well as just wanting to be free, to go out and have fun and meet people. We recently did have a serious talk because he has noticed that I just haven't been myself lately. I expressed my feelings towards him about how I keep dwelling on the past and how I never deserved the things he put me through. He listened and understood and said how he was just young and stupid and made terrible decisions. He apologized and we made up, but I still just don't feel any better. I feel at a complete loss and am unsure of what to do or how to feel. I just need to hear someone else's opinion about it. What would you do, or what do you think I should do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You can't come back from some wrongs. It's great that he's more mature and a better person now. But that doesn't mean you have to stay. You're only 19. You can absolutely find someone in your very long life ahead of you who will never do anything like that and be good from the start. Comment 2. I constantly think of the future and wonder if I want this for the rest of my life, and most of the time my answer is no, so I guess that speaks for itself. Thank you. Now for the update. Here's the update. It's been just over a week since my last post, and things have changed a bit. After our serious talk, I decided to take a break from hanging out with my boyfriend. I needed space to think without feeling his presence every second. I focused on spending time with my family to clear my head. My parents invited me to their house for dinner. They always try to keep me close, especially when I'm feeling lost. My younger sister Kate was there, and she brought her new boyfriend, Liam. They seemed happy, which was nice to see. During dinner, my mom asked about my boyfriend, which is typical. She was probably wondering why she hadn't seen him around. I just mentioned that we were taking some time apart. Kate seemed surprised and asked if everything was okay. I shrugged it off, acting like it was no big deal, but it felt like everyone was watching me. My dad made a joke about me being single, which made me laugh, but I felt a bit of tension. It was like they wanted to know more, but I wasn't ready to share everything. After dinner, I stepped outside for some fresh air and called my boyfriend. He answered, sounding upset, asking why I was avoiding him. I told him I needed space to figure things out. He begged me to reconsider and suggested we meet up. I agreed, thinking it might help clarify things. We met at a small diner near his place a few nights later. The atmosphere was tense from the start. He kept asking why I was being so distant. I tried to explain, but he just seemed frustrated, saying he was trying to be better. The conversation quickly turned into a debate about our future. He brought up getting a place together, which caught me off guard because we never discussed it. I told him I wasn't ready for that yet, which made him defensive. He raised his voice, saying I was being unreasonable. I felt overwhelmed and decided to leave the diner. As I walked out, I heard him call after me, but I didn't turn back. I spent the next few days avoiding his calls and texts. I know it sounds harsh, but I needed that distance. On the weekend, my family had a birthday party for my mom. It was nice to celebrate with everyone. During the party, I ran into my boyfriend's sister, who was invited. She pulled me aside and asked if I was okay, saying she noticed he seemed off lately. I told her we were just going through a rough patch. She mentioned that he had been acting differently around their family. The following week, I got a message from my boyfriend's sister saying she was worried about him. She told me he had been partying more and hanging out with some questionable friends. I decided to check in on him, so I showed up at his apartment unannounced. When I arrived, I found the door slightly open, and the place was a mess. I walked in and saw beer cans scattered everywhere. My boyfriend was sitting on the couch, looking disheveled, with a couple of friends I didn't know. They were loud and seemed to be drinking heavily. I confronted him about his behavior and the state of the apartment. He dismissed my concerns, saying I was overreacting and that he was just having fun. I went back home feeling really unsettled. I mean, how did we get to this point? I came to realize this isn't the guy I fell for. It's like he's hiding behind this mask, and I'm just tired of waiting for him to take it off. We need to talk, but I'm not even sure what I'm gonna say. I kinda miss the old him, but I don't think he exists anymore. I'm just waiting to see how this all plays out. I just want to end this nightmare and move on. Edit. It's been a few months since my last update. Things have been rough, and I'm still figuring them out. I've been focusing on self-care, but it's been a challenge. My boyfriend and I have had more conversations, but nothing feels resolved. His behavior is still concerning. I'm just taking things day by day. Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend to stop acting like a victim every time I share my feelings? Every time I, a 24-year-old female, tell my boyfriend, a 24-year-old male, how I feel, he instantly gets defensive and argues or shuts down with no in-between. We've been together for almost a year, which isn't that long in the scheme of things. But if it's to the point where I can't express anything I'm feeling or thinking unless it's positive, is there any solution or way forward? I personally don't want to be in a relationship where I can't tell the other person how I'm feeling about them, our relationship, or a certain situation, and then be made to feel like I'm just a nag. I can definitely keep quiet and only speak my mind when it's about something positive, but relationships and life in general aren't always sunshine and rainbows. There are going to be issues on either side or just things that need to be addressed. But I don't know how we'll ever resolve any problems or feelings if they're received so poorly by him. Sometimes I don't even want a resolution. I just want to be heard, validated, and understood. But I never get that. So a resolution is out of the picture. I understand not wanting to be criticized and scrutinized, and I try not to frame any of my feelings around him and always center them around myself so he doesn't feel attacked. But without fail, he always gets angry or quiet in response. I don't know if there's something I'm doing incorrectly or a way I could go about communicating certain things to him, but no matter the approach, I always get a bad response. I value transparency and vulnerability and really would like to know if there's any way that I can have both of those things without coming off like such a burden or a bother. If this was an occasional thing, I wouldn't be as concerned. But every time I open my mouth to share something, I get shut down and made to look like I'm starting an argument over nothing. I've always said that just because something isn't a big deal to him doesn't mean it's not a big deal to me. And if he cared about me, regardless of whether he sees it from the same perspective, he wouldn't try to invalidate my feelings or dispute them. I'm not looking for him to solve every issue or cure every feeling I have. I can do that for myself in most cases. However, if I'm going to have to rely on myself for absolutely every bit of comfort and reassurance, I'll just be single. I really don't understand why partners have such a hard time being there for their person, even if it's just listening, without making it worse by arguing or stonewalling. Just tonight, I made a comment about something I wasn't too fond of, and he told me to go sleep it off if I couldn't or wouldn't change the conversation. So instead of having a conversation or addressing anything, even if it was a minuscule discussion, I was told to go self-soothe, and he would talk to me tomorrow. Am I wrong for wanting someone to care about how I feel, especially if it's in relation to them in some capacity? I'm well aware I'm in control of my life and my emotions, and it's no one else's job to fix how I feel for me. Not that they could if they tried. But it's more about being treated like a bother for not bottling up my emotions. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yes, I'll attach one below. I generally never approach situations like, I don't like this or that, or ask him not to do things. I start by saying, I feel, or I think, to be as minimally abrasive as possible, because I know he receives it particularly poorly. I can understand if I framed it in the way you mentioned, how that could lead to being combative. A silly example, but just for principle. If I say, I don't like how loud you snore, can you stop? Versus, I feel like sometimes my own sleep suffers as a result of your snoring. Would you be willing to try XYZ when you're sleeping over? Both are definitely addressing the same issue, but the first is a critique or complaint only. The second has some complaints in it, I guess, but it's more centered around how I feel or how I'm impacted by his actions or decisions, which I try to make the main focus of anything I say, so he doesn't feel like I'm jumping on him. He snores like a train, but I just gave that example for illustration purposes on how I try to approach anything with him. Comment 2. Thank you. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I've always tried to center anything I bring up around me and never focus it on him. I know the second someone hears you, whether man or woman, they automatically grow defensive. That's human nature, so I've tried to tailor my approach differently. I genuinely don't complain though, at least from my perspective, but it's totally possible it's received differently. I'm not going to say I never complain about my day or my dogs being little troublemakers, but when it comes to a relationship problem and I understand how difficult it's been to get my point or feelings across without it being misinterpreted, I really do take consideration in the way I present my thoughts, because it usually doesn't go well. I was just out of ideas on how to curate my emotions so they didn't offend him. I appreciate your feedback though. I'll try to initiate that conversation. Now, for the update. About a month after my last post, I went to a family dinner at my parents' house for my dad's birthday. Kyle came with me, and I was kind of nervous about how the evening would go, but I couldn't bail on my parents after everything they did for us. I figured it'd be fine. I mean, it was just dinner, right? My parents served a lot of food, and the atmosphere felt light at first. Everyone was laughing and joking around, and my mom kept asking if we wanted more mashed potatoes. You know how moms can be. My younger sister, Kate, mentioned how she was thinking about starting a new job, and my parents were super supportive. Jake and Rachel shared some exciting news about their baby's due date, and everyone cheered. It was actually really nice to see everyone so happy. But then my dad raised a toast, joking about how he hoped to see grandkids from me soon. I laughed along, but I could see Kyle stiffen in his chair, like I thought he was going to break the chair with how tense he got. After dinner, Kyle pulled me aside to talk in the hallway. He said he felt pressured by everyone's comments about marriage and kids. I tried to reassure him that it was just family joking around and that they weren't serious. But he dismissed my words, saying it felt like everyone was pushing us. I pointed out that my parents just wanted to see us happy together and that they weren't attacking us or anything. Kyle argued that they don't know what goes on between us, and I was like, well, duh. That's why we're here, so they can get to know you better. I overheard Kyle talking to Jake in the living room, sounding agitated. He complained about how I never stand up for him in front of my family, and I was like, oh, really? I never stand up for you? Jake tried to defend me, saying I was just caught off guard, but I don't know if that helped. I stepped back into the room after hearing Kyle's tone because I didn't want to make things worse. I asked him what he wanted me to do, and he snapped at me. He said I should have told my family to back off instead of laughing along. Like, what was I supposed to do? Jump on the table and start yelling? My mom came in and noticed the tension, asking if everything was okay. Kyle forced a smile and said, "Just a little disagreement." Yeah, right. I left the room to grab my coat, needing a break from the situation. Kyle followed me outside, where the cold air made everything feel sharper. He accused me of not taking him seriously, claiming I never cared about his feelings. I said I wanted to talk about our issues, but he insisted I was too focused on my family. I suggested we go home, but he said he wasn't ready to leave. I went back inside to find my parents, who were finishing dessert. I told them Kyle needed some space, and they nodded in understanding. After a few minutes, Kyle came back inside, looking frustrated. He chose to sit on the couch, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Rachel asked if he was okay, and he just shrugged. The conversation shifted back to the baby news, but the mood felt different. I caught Kyle shooting glares when my dad joked about me and him getting married, and I was like, this is awkward. The night ended with Kyle saying he needed to go home early. I didn't argue, knowing that pushing him would only make it worse. I texted him when I got home, asking if we could talk the next day about everything. He replied hours later with a simple, "Sure," but it felt cold. When we finally talked, Kyle brought up how he felt like a burden in our relationship. That hit me hard. Like, I had no idea he felt that way. I thought we were in this together. Edit. I had no idea he felt that way. I thought we were in this together. We had a long talk about it, and he admitted that he often felt like my family didn't accept him. I told him they were just protective, and I understood how he felt. He apologized for being dismissive of my feelings and promised to work on his reactions. We agreed to take things slow and focus on us for now. It was a tough conversation, but I think we're making progress. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.